talk more about, I didn't realize how much Two Broke Girls kind of was art intimidating life a little bit there. So can you talk about a little bit more about how your life was before that role? Because it kind of changed your life, right?
Oh, beyond kind of like
Yeah.
overnight almost. I mean, it's so funny because everybody says, you work your whole life. I've been acting my whole life before Two Broke Girls. So it was like 24 years of before I got the job. But yeah, I was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment, working 7 days a week. I was bartending at a theater and a nanny at the time. And I had been auditioning. I'd had an agent since college. So I'd done bit parts here and there, guest stars, and a few like movies that were small kinds of things.
Yeah.
But this was like my first, obviously, huge thing. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't afford at my screen test. Michael Patrick King like hugged me and he had asked me to buy high heels. And I had worn cowboy boots as Caroline Channing in all my auditions beforehand, which is hilarious because Caroline Channing would not wear cowboy boots. And he had said to me, he was so sweet. He called me before my screen test for the network and he was like, do you own a pair of heels? You have to wear, you have to look like Caroline Channing. And I was, paycheck to paycheck ramen, barely had enough gas to get to work, like total broke girl. So I put it all on a credit card and I kept all the tags on all my clothes and my shoes. And when he hugged me to say hello at my screen test, he was like, do you have tags on your clothes? I do. And then
I mean, come on, who hasn't done that at least once? Like,
I mean, obviously, yeah. But and then when I got the part, I kept them, so I didn't have to return it. But yeah, it changed my whole life, and I call it my grad school because between Michael Patrick King, Kat Dennings, and Jimmy Burrows, who directed, Jimmy did Friends, Taxi. I mean, you name it, multicam, sitcom. He's the god of directing. I say it was sort of my master's degree in comedy and acting,
how many years kind of went by from when you moved there to LA to when you actually got that role?
I graduated college in 2008 and I think Two Broke Girls happened in 2011.
Okay.
So not too long out of college. I was one of the lucky actors who had a day job only for 3.5 years before, 4 years before.
That's awesome. Your first big real thing is a star.
And I remember saying to he's now my husband, but he was my boyfriend. We were very early in dating at the time. But I remember saying to him when I got the pilot script for my audition the next day, I said, I love this role so much. This girl, I just know I could play her, but like, I'm never going to get this part. It's a lead on a big CBS show. Like, but I'm just going to try to go in and like do my best because I love this character. And my husband was like, that's exactly what John Hamm said before Mad Men, and he got Mad Men. So my husband had said, like, don't say you'll never get the part because, that's what John thought too. And look at what happened to him with Mad Men. So it was a pretty cool, like, moment in time to be able to go like, I love this so much and I get the part. Wow.
Awesome. Did you ever feel like really uncomfortable, like kind of adjusting to this new world? I mean, you went to the forefront. Like, did you ever feel like incredibly like uncomfortable? Like, this is too good to be true. Who am I? Like, did you ever suffer with that sort of?
All of those things. And I suffered with a lot. I mean, I'm like you. I've had anxiety my whole life. It's interesting. I never had anxiety performing like in front of the live audience or playing Caroline Channing or anything, but off camera. I just remember because it was different for me because I hadn't done like what Kat had done. Kat had already been a movie star. She was already in it. And for me, like even money wise, like I couldn't afford red carpet stylists or anything. So I was wearing like, no problem with it, but I was wearing like Forever 21 to things. And I felt like I looked different than the other girls my age on red carpets that were leads of television shows. Now, as like a 30-something-year-old woman who's like had time to reflect, I'm like, I loved that about that time because I think there was something authentic in having to own like, this is who I am and this is my reality. My heart and my soul are not what I'm wearing on the red carpet. And
steps too in life, like everything takes step, and you kind of, I think if you have to go through the steps, then you appreciate it more, right?
Absolutely appreciate it more. And I mean, that was the thing. It's like going from being a real broke girl overnight to this, like my whole life changing. And I mean, Two Broke Girls at that time on television, our lead-in was when Ashton Kutcher took over for Charlie Sheen on Two and a Half Men.
Okay.
And I remember my agent calling me after the pilot aired, and I was like, "How are the numbers?" And he was like, "These numbers you won't even have in the biggest movie." Like I think it was like 25 million households tuned in. Like it was something so crazy that in TV now, because they're streaming, because there's so many cable shows, but back then, I mean, it hit in a way that Kat and I, both Kat too, were like exploded overnight into like a different world, which I'm so grateful for when you look back now, because how crazy. It's like every actor's dream to have that happen, you know? And I miss, like,
Do you miss
now that it's been
her?
years, yeah, I just miss her. And I miss that I'm regretting recently that we didn't get a proper ending to the show.
Yeah.
Because it was such a shock. We all thought we were coming back. We didn't really say goodbye.
Yeah.
And I watched, what was I watching? Oh, the Schitt's Creek. I love
Oh.
Schitt's Creek. I was watching the Schitt's Creek finale, and my husband's like, "Why are you still crying after it ended?" And I was like, because I knew those actors got a proper goodbye to those characters that they loved for that many years, and
Yeah.
Kat and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I think when it first happened, I was just scared. I didn't have a job anymore. What was I going to do next? I missed like the camaraderie of Two Broke Girls, but I didn't really mourn Caroline, like missing that character or getting closure. And now as I'm looking back, I'm like really sad that her and I, and for the fans too, we didn't get to like, and the writers, we didn't get to end Two Broke Girls the way we could have if we had just known it was going to end,
Yeah.
you know?